2020, huh? What a terrible time to live in. What with a global recession, border conflicts, a worldwide pandemic forcing us to live the rest of our lives in solitary confinement, and America in general. Unfortunately, the worldwide pandemic has left me alone with the person I hate the most in this entire world. Me. Anyways, to shake up the monotony of life in quarantine, I decided to check out the Steam Summer Sale in an attempt to artificially bolster my dangerously low serotonin levels, where I was faced with a game called Planet Zoo. I was immediately enamored with the game, which reminded me of when I used to play a game called Zoo Tycoon at my neighbor's house when I was just a little boy. Times were good back then. Life was simpler, easier, and devoid of a global recession. Unfortunately though, I quickly found that my bank account very much disagreed with my spending habits, and when it comes to choosing between a new video game and surviving for the next month, well, I'd rather not take my chances. Fortunately though, through the power of the internet and some illicit websites, I am able to travel back to the time when life was simpler by potentially illegally downloading the original Zoo Tycoon. That title screen, that music, I can already feel the endorphins rushing in already. So today we're gonna be playing this game in genocide mode, which means starting the zoo with only $10,000 and playing on a map called Death Mountain. An apt name considering that we're going to be breaking as many of the Geneva Convention's war crimes as possible. Here we are. Death Mountain. I don't know though, nothing really screams Death Mountain to me. I mean, it just looks sort of... Wait a minute. Anyways, I first began constructing my zoo utopia by building a Thompson's Gazelle exhibit, and would you look at that, guests are already pouring in. At this point though, I had already burnt through half of my available funds, so I decided to do what any rational businessman would do and hire an army of souvenir peddlers. After this, I decided to begin work on my second exhibit, when construction costs would put me in the red. Luckily though, the bank came in clutch and handed me a stimulus check of $10,000. Thank you, Donald Trump.
Grab him by the pussy.
Anyways, I used that extra cash to adopt some giraffes. However, I quickly realized that even though the game gave me access to giraffes, it did not give me access to giraffe shelters, which upset both my giraffes and me. So instead, I decided to convert the giraffe exhibit into a lion exhibit. Now, while some people might call this exhibit conversion inhumane, I choose to call it the circle of life. However, this exhibit conversion has once again put me in the red, so I decided to go make a cup of matcha while my army of souvenir peddlers do their job. Upon my return though, I quickly discovered that my animals had made quite the mess. And no, I'm not talking about my lions, gazelles, or zebras. I'm talking about my fucking guests, who decided to leave trash absolutely fucking everywhere. Oh, and the month changed, which meant that I had to pay upkeep costs, once again throwing my economic status into the red. This filled me with rage and the conviction that tourists aren't humans, but are instead stupid brain-dead Neanderthals that must be exploited for all that they're worth. This led me to jack up my ticket prices and to rename my zoo to Crocodile Hole, which is a vague reference that none of you will likely understand. The increased ticket cost should net me a lot of profit in the long run. However, I had an urgent sanitation issue, so I did what any responsible zoo owner would do, which was to sell a newborn baby zebra to the black market so that in turn I could afford to buy a few trash cans. At this point, my guests started to complain that my zoo was too dirty. As if that's my fucking fault! Anyways, it was now June and I had to do my bi-yearly expense reports when I discovered that my army of gift shop peddlers were actually costing me more money than they were bringing in. So, sorry boys, but I guess it's off to the Gulag with you. I soon replaced them with a brand spanking new gift shop that will hopefully help me recuperate my losses. Good thing my gift shop peddlers didn't unionize. Still low on cash, it was at this time I had discovered that Death Mountain was actually a gold mine, populated with rocks and trees that I could again sell to the black market for profit. This netted me with $14,000, which gave me the funds I needed to construct the eponymous crocodile hole exhibit, which again put me in the red. Fortunately though, one of my gazelles got sick, and as they say in Russia, if you get ill, I can sell you to the black market to pay the bills. It was at this point that I discovered that guest happiness actually means something, so I scrounged whatever shekels I had laying around to improve the atmosphere of my zoo, so that my guests would be more inclined to spend their money on things like pizzas and hamburgers. This, however, was a long-term investment, and I was quickly getting fucking bored, so I decided to go online to look up some cheat codes to improve my financial situation. After all, what good dictator hasn't embezzled a few $1,000,000 anyway? Oh, my gazelles have started to die of old age. Oh well, it was about time I convert this exhibit to a hyena exhibit anyway. With this new money, I quickly built up a zoo utopia housing many of the world's most dangerous animals, like polar bears, chimpanzees, rhinos, hippos, wildebeests, wolves, mandrills, tigers, leopards, and your mom. It was at this point that I started to wonder what would happen if I put in a singular female polar bear with a bunch of male black bears. And oh my. After a few hours of playing this game, I had finally done it. I've converted the barren Death Mountain into a beautiful zoo utopia, complete with a Japanese Zen garden which filled the air with this beautiful 10-second MIDI loop. It was peaceful. So peaceful, in fact, that I just zoomed out and watched it all play out for a good 20 minutes. Just like when the game first came out in 2001, I was once again happy. Out of nowhere though, a literal witch appeared on my screen which signaled the beginning of the ruination. The zoo's recent success has started to piss off some of my crocodiles who are feeling a bit crowded by too many guests. And I couldn't have the stars of my zoo be unhappy, now could I? What sort of a responsible zoo owner would I be? After all, my crocodiles are everything to me, while my guests were literally worse than trash. So once again, I set out to do what any responsible zoo owner would do, which was to seal the exits of my zoo with a concrete wall, thus creating my final exhibit, Armageddon. I then took out my demolish tool and deleted everything I had built in Crocodile Hole, therefore merging every single animal exhibit in the zoo with Armageddon. And thus began the slaughter of the filthy tourist race and my headphones. It was pure chaos, a descent into madness, the ultimate battle royale. My zoo animals quickly began hunting down and mauling my guests in the most violent and gratuitous ways, which would make anyone question the validity of the ESRB rating. But hey, at least guests are saying that the entrance fee is a really good value. And look, here comes Santa Claus. It really is a Christmas miracle. I sure do hope that I'm not on the naughty list. After filling their stomachs with human entrails, my animals quickly got bored and began to chill out and take a collective nap together. On the other hand, my surviving tourists got glitched on this side of the map. Put some pop music in the background and this just becomes Coachella, complete with shit on the ground. Anyways, this whole genocide thing is really starting to stress me out a little bit, so I decided to build a couple of Zen gardens to help lighten the mood. The sweet majestic sounds of the Zen garden playing over the screams of my guests make for a brilliant afternoon. This is it. This is Zoo Tycoon. After a long day's work, a job well done, and permanent tinnitus in both of my ears, I decided that it was finally time for me to hang my coat and call it a day.
I bought a whole bunch of shungite rocks. Do you know what shungite is? Anybody know what shungite is? No, not Suge Knight. I think he's locked up in prison. Talking shungite.